you've got this whole dream. And then when the vacation comes around, you open up that wallet or you open up your bank account and you've got like $7,
Yeah.
And that prompts a lot of people to go into debt and say, well, I'll work it off. I just got to get out of here. And so then they go to their credit cards. And then once they go to the credit cards, it's no longer a reality-based financial decision. It's an emotional financial decision. And it just breaks my heart when I see really hardworking people taking those vacations and then they come back and they're more in debt and they're more frustrated than when they left. And I wanted to see in your walk of life, in your specialty, if you've ever had to talk with clients about how to budget for the good times, because we've spent a lot of our podcasts talking about budgeting for the bad times. And I wanted to see if you help people budget for the good times too.
The content presented and discussed is purely intended to be general and educational in nature and should not be construed as specifically tailored investment, financial planning, tax, legal, psychological diagnosis, or other professional advice.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Ask My Man Manny with our co-host, Dr. Abby Durkin, the one and only. And we are here talking today about something that's on all of our hearts, which is spending some time away from our vocations to disconnect and have a good time, but not feel burdened coming back and not having that feeling that maybe we should have done something. And so that's what I think about when it comes to vacation. I consider myself somewhat of a workaholic, but Abby, what are some kind of ways we can think about the importance of off time and making the best of it?
Yeah, so I am thrilled to talk about this topic because, people have itchy feet. They want to go away. They want to go to the beach. They want to go to the mountains and the lake. They want to do all the things. But especially in the context of finance, I wanted to talk about the mentality that it's sort of like our brain just switches gears when we think about the word vacation. And our hearts and our wallets are often not on the same page, because it's an emotional decision. And oftentimes, the more burned out, the more tired, the more frustrated, the more angry that we are at work, the higher the reward seems to be that we want to give ourselves. We do this kind of mental tally up of, wow, I've been grinding for 6 months straight without a day off. I'm going to go crazy, and that might be emotionally valid. And that might be psychologically 1,000% justified. But a lot of people don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of coin to go to the places that they want to go, especially if they have families. How many of you out there have been on your feeds scrolling and saving photos of islands and oceans, and I want to go free diving with the whales, and you've got this whole dream. And then when the vacation comes around, you open up that wallet or you open up your bank account and you've got like $7, And that prompts a lot of people to go into debt and say, well, I'll work it off. I just got to get out of here. And so then they go to their credit cards. And then once they go to the credit cards, it's no longer a reality-based financial decision. It's an emotional financial decision. And it just breaks my heart when I see really hardworking people taking those vacations and then they come back and they're more in debt and they're more frustrated than when they left. And I wanted to see in your walk of life, in your specialty, if you've ever had to talk with clients about how to budget for the good times because we've spent a lot of our podcasts talking about budgeting for the bad times. And I wanted to see if you help people budget for the good times too. And if they hear you, like, and how do you get through to them on a topic that, you just immediately put your party hat on and you're like ready to go. How do you kind of slow the roll, pump the brakes and say, okay, let's really think about how much can you spend on this? What are your limits? And like, what are the ways that you teach people to put those safeguards in place so that they don't go into crazy debt when they're just out there trying to blow off some steam?
You got it. You hit the nail right on the head. And it's amazing because I would say about half of my job is helping people understand what they value and making sure that they live within their means. The other half, and I will say half, is helping people understand and give permission for themselves to enjoy what they have. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but there's so many people I find that are holding on to money and they feel really, really bad about spending it. And mainly because they don't know what they need to have to live their standard of living throughout their lifetimes. And they've never really got permission, never really seen a quantitative estimate of what they could spend easily. And so it definitely hits home. Half of my clients, that some of them might be, but most clients, if they come to me, if they're engaged, they're already a step ahead of most people because money is on their mind. They want to make some changes, and most of them are motivated to making changes. And I find that a lot of them are at a point where they can emotionally grasp the idea of like saving and importance of saving. But there's also those people that I find that just don't feel comfortable with spending it at all. And there's couples too. Like you might have couples where one person is a good saver and the other person is like, laissez-faire about it. And helping people manage those dynamics is important. So I would say moderation and moderation. Like I think a lot of financial people, they're very conservative. I'd even go as far as saying militant about spending. Like there's no such thing as a good thing to spend now. That's not how it should be. Your budget, just like dieting. If you had a diet that was very restrictive and you weren't having any joy with what you're eating, you're not going to stick to it. The same thing comes to like your spending habits. And so what I urge people to do is, yes, work within your means. Let's look at the overall after paycheck, after deduction amount of money that's hitting your bank account. Let's look at a plan for the things that you need to live off of, the fixed expenses, the expenses that you need to do. They're more like variable. And with that cushion, find some ways to invest that or pay down debt. Eventually, over time, you're going to have naturally some money that's free money. And I even go as far as saying, like, let's budget that free money at the paycheck level. So every single paycheck, some money is going to your joint account, which is going to go to, or if you're married, or your imaginary account that goes towards making your payments and paying for the things that you need, the life things. And then you have money that goes to a fund account, FUN account, that if you spend all of it, doesn't really, if it's frivolous, whether it's basketball tickets to the Wizards, I'm sorry for Wizards fans, or it's money that you want to give to your girlfriend you went to college with for a wedding gift, or your vacation fund. That's money you don't have to worry about where it goes. It's wherever you feel like it. So I want my clients at the outset to say, yes, there are some goals that we need to work on, some things we need to improve on, but it's not their budgets should not be draconian. It should be some fun budgeted in your budget.
Yeah, that's awesome. You talked about two things that are near and dear to my heart as a psychologist, which is having gratitude for what you have in my world, we talk about gratitude quite a bit, but there's this strategy that is getting a lot of more traction. It's more, I guess, in the bigger culture now, and it's mindfulness, and it's a way to have essentially what's a micro vacation exactly where you are, and it's completely free. And it's a process where you take stock of your surroundings in a way that you really employ a sense of awareness of where you are in time and space, and appreciating all the things that you can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste in a very calm way. And that does wonders for, calming your nervous system, helping you make better decisions, helping you think more clearly. And even though it might not be as fun as parasailing, it's still fun in its own way. And I think that, as people try to manage their incredibly busy lives, remembering that mindfulness takes 3 to 5 minutes tops and can be like a little vacation in your mind. It's a complete reset. The other topic that is tied into this, because you and I both spend time helping people in our own way, but there are forces that work using the same principles that we do, but not in the consumer's best interest or the client's best interest. And in the world of vacations, wanted to get your thoughts on like predatory vacation products, like timeshares, because they play upon the very same emotions that we're talking about. They're out there in front of the grocery stores, or they're in your emails, or they're in your DMs on whatever platforms you're on. And if you've ever been at the mercy of a timeshare pitch, it's like none other. And I swear, it's an imprisoned situation. And a lot of people, they find themselves in even more debt because of the pyramid scheme structure of those timeshare situations. So I wanted to also get your thoughts on like the vacation industry, and how it's sort of like if you tell somebody that you're getting married, the price quadruples. Sometimes when you're telling somebody that you're on vacation, well, that balloon at Disneyland that you could buy at 7-Eleven for $5, well, I'm sorry, once you're in the park, it's $35 for the same stupid Mylar Mickey.
Yeah.
Right?
Did
so
you
the
read the same article I saw?
Maybe I did. Yeah. So
Because
like,
that
what do you think about all
$35 number
that?
sounds familiar. Like, yeah, I
Uh-huh.
follow this dad's page on Facebook, and they were talking about
Yo,
what one dad was talking about watching another dad, and his eyes
that's right.
blow up, finding
Yes, yes,
out
yes.
that a Mickey Mouse balloon was like $35 at Disney
That's it.
World.
Yep, we read the same article.
I really do think that everything is contextual, right? I mean, if you have a lot of money, you can spend a good amount of money on vacations. If you don't have a lot of money, you got a budget. But the prices are not always the same. Like there's so many different ways you can shop around and budget to have a decent vacation. It really is one figuring out earlier. The earlier you plan, the better prices you get. Another thing is looking at where we are in a business cycle. So there is a rate that credit card companies kind of follow when it comes to setting their credit cards and lending. And so that feeds into what you're going to pay for vacations on credit, your credit cards, a whole host of things. That's called a prime rate, PRIME. Some people might have been aware of the federal funds rate. They know what mortgage rates are. They know what maybe perhaps the 10-year treasury rate is as a bellwether. The prime rate is the rate that the best credit worthy clients get from banks, the prime rate. And so from 2008 to about 2015, so 7 years or so, that rate was really, really low. So 3.5%. So yeah, I remember buying a car. My wife bought a car, Nissan, with 0% rate, and we beat down the actual rate on which we were paying for that car. It was so lending and borrowing was really low rates. And so it didn't really bite you that bad to borrow money. You want to guess what the prime rate is now? So we'll say 3.5, 2008, 3.25 from 2008 to say 2015. What do you think the prime rate is now?
It's 5.
8.5.
No.
And this is the best, people. And so it's not unheard of. I'm talking to clients who have credit cards with 25, 30% interest rates. The financial markets are telling you with big red letters, pay now, pay with what you can afford, pay down debt now, because it's not going to be as good as it used to be. And you're going to be really worrying about the money you spend on those vacations. And so I would say work within your budget for the immediate near future. Try to find some deals. As impactful it is for us to borrow, it is impactful for the vacation companies to create a value that you're willing to pay with today's money. And so you're going to see better deals than you saw perhaps maybe a few months or a couple of years ago. And so I don't want to get people like scared about looking at opportunities, but just be cautious, be shrewd, negotiate, right? You got to be willing to negotiate and then shop around.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't borrow. If you can, don't borrow, because you want to borrow, generally speaking, financial related. You borrow for the length of time that an asset has value to you, right? And so if you have a car, it's okay to borrow if you're going to be in that car for 7 years. I'll say 5 years. It's okay to borrow for 5 years. If you buy a building that's useful life is 30 years, it's okay to borrow for 30 years. You don't want to borrow for something that lasts you 2 weeks and pay for it over 3 years. You know what I'm saying? The longer you wait to pay that off, the less you see value in it. And you'll have buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm.
You have buyer's remorse. Now coming to the timeshare issue, like I remember, I remember my grandmother, she had a nice timeshare during our birthday week in February. As you might know, February is the winter, but it's a lot less humid. It's kind of a better time in Florida to go. And we went there maybe twice. Me and my family, my extended family went there maybe twice that I've been a part of. But when she passed away, she ended up having this timeshare, and they still sent her the maintenance fees and costs associated with it. And it always kept going up. And it's so hard to get out of it. I thought I was going to be able to sell it and maybe get some money back out of it. But they're a money pit. And I would say nowadays with the advent of an Airbnb, the Airbnb might be better than doing a timeshare. Right? You're paying for someone to give you more of the amenities you expect out there above and beyond what you get from a hotel. But at that end of that month or end of those 2 weeks, you're in Orlando, wherever you may be, you're done. It's like a close hand transaction. And so I would say, tell people, please don't do timeshares.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right. Yeah. And those vacation packages that they sell, you're totally right. The more that you spend on those short-term experiences, if you aren't financially independent, you do end up with that buyer's remorse. And unfortunately, what that does is it taints the memories. Those special times that you have with your family and your kids. If a week afterwards, or a month afterwards, 2 months afterwards, you're still like bleeding money trying to pay off things as quick as possible before the interest quadruples, and you're looking at your statements saying, wow, this is more than the principal that I borrowed. You're like, I'm never going back to that stupid park. We're never doing another road trip. We're never going to da, right? And you start to make all these campaign promises to yourself and your kids. And like, this is crazy, right? And you don't even want to see those stupid pictures. You delete your Instagram. You're like, and you just go into this whole, like spiral. But we all do deserve to have a break. But I think as a consumer, maybe one way to slow roll is to think who has my best interest at heart, and to really be very watchful about who's going to make a profit from my choice and who's going to benefit from my choice. Is it me? Is it my family? Is it my kids? Or is it this random company that has this poor college kid out here on the street handing flyers? Like, where am I really going to drop that money? And they will play on your emotions. And so I think it's also time for people to take that emotional inventory of how burned out are you? How much of a reward do you feel that you deserve? And be on guard, because even if you don't know it, and this is what catches my clients off guard too, is even if you're not aware of how burned out you are, it is visible to predators, to financial predators with these vacation packages. They see one weary mom with a kid who's having a meltdown, and they're like, aha, ma'am, you look like you could use a break, right? And just, yes, I absolutely could use a break. So they see it. So be mindful of how burned out you are and how that is presented, because it's not the consumer's fault. It's not the client's fault. You're out here living your life, working hard. You're cutting up that candles to burn it at more ends than you had originally. And it's evident. So I think being able to take stock of what you have, take those micro breaks throughout the day, budget, like you said, financially, but also like budget for yourself emotionally, is to really get into how you are feeling at this given moment. Because the more you know that about yourself, the better you get at reducing your vulnerabilities to these vacation pitches and packages. And it also might just enhance the experience that you end up going for, because you've taken that inventory, that personal inventory, and have said, I don't really need to fly across the ocean. I don't need to get on a plane for 17 hours to have the kind of experience that I can have if I just packed up the car and drove for 4 hours. So which one would really bring me the most joy? And what are those hidden costs of each choice, right? And sometimes what people don't factor in when they're thinking about these pie in the sky vacations is time in transit. You can either get to your destination quickly or you can get to your destination cheaply. So how valuable is the amount of time that you want to spend investing in a break for yourself? Because at some point, it becomes counterproductive. At some point, you're like, hey, I got this great deal on a budget. Turns out that I can go to Cambodia for only $100. Well, guess how long it's going to take you to go to Cambodia for $100? Goodbye summer. So I think it's critical that people take that emotional inventory before they put out their card or before they sign a paper, and think about where am I really vulnerable? What do I really need? And can I get that in a way that reduces my vulnerability, reduces my profile? Because you're getting profiled by these vacation companies all the time. What can I do that really is going to lower how I show up when I'm walking around or when I'm on the internet, that isn't screaming out there that I am tired of my job, I'm tired of my coworkers, and I just want to sit on the beach and watch the sunset? Because if you know that and you're putting that out in the universe, it's going to get picked up.
Oh yeah, I can go to Ocean City and on a weekend, have a good 2 or 3 days and have fun, come back recharged. Another thing which is really interesting, and a lot of people have this flexibility, just don't really think about it, is that, based on McKinsey, and McKinsey is a researcher who does a lot with when it comes to employment. 58% of employees nowadays in America have at least some part-time that they can work remotely, right? And so
Yeah.
I was in Florida for a couple of weeks, and I don't think I mean, it may have come up in conversation, but it did not affect the timing, the appointments that I had set, because we're all in the same time zone. What if you went? What if you looked at opportunities to vacation north and south, right? If you go north and south and you have a certain time frame that you're supposed to be working, you don't have to make any adjustments with that. And maybe you have maybe you drop down how many hours you flex. Maybe you work 4 hours for a 2 week or 3 week period, and you get all your work done within in a specific period of time. And then in those other hours throughout the day, you're enjoying your vacation. You're going somewhere else, but you're just doing it remotely. When you work remotely. You just bring your laptop. And so that flexibility is everywhere. I mean, I can go to Florida if I want it and go a couple places sightseeing on the way back. And I could meet the same time zone restrictions that all of my clients might have for me during the path backwards. And so thinking out the box is a way that you can look at keeping your cost of your vacations down and also not having it impact your compensation. A lot of people who probably are on here, if they don't work, they don't earn. And if they can do some of the work that's virtual during their vacations for maybe a few hours during the day on that vacation, that can make it a whole world of a difference when you come back full time and you're back home. And so I encourage people to kind of think about, you can go, if you have a laptop and you have high speed internet, you can pretty much go, if you have a fully remote job or offer, you can pretty much go anywhere. Or, you take some of that PTO. Like, I know some people are like, I don't want to take my PTO. I don't want to do that. Like, you should, first of all. And who knows, you might spend some time off. And if you're in a knowledge-based service, it can open your eyes to answers to problems you've been pondering for a very long time. Just going out and experiencing life, being somewhere different, you might say, "Oh my goodness, I had a problem I was thinking about, and just based on this experience, I found out a solution that I've been thinking about in this small cubby hole, 8 hours a day for most of them." There really is a true transformation in your thinking that happens when you travel, and that helps you solve problems. So think about it as not only costs, but the pros and what that might do and deliver with your vocation.
Yeah, good stuff, Manny. I think one of the takeaways that you said that is going to stick with me is moderation and moderation. I love that quote, because as you're thinking about being able to, take a significant break, take a meaningful break, it doesn't have to be a trip to the moon. You're not booking as a space tourist in order to really feel like you can have a decent amount of mental space away from the stressors that are in your life. And so understanding what those stressors are and what it looks like to get away from them within your budget is a pretty important step that clients and consumers can take in the summer months.
Yeah, so I would sum it down to really three things. One is, think about why you feel that you need to have a vacation. If your work day is so structured and you feel like you're unmotivated, maybe think about how you are. If you're working from home, at least think about where your energy level is, and in shifting the time of work and the type of work you do for the level of energy you're going to have to expend. So for me, I like the saying, eat the frog first thing in the morning, right? Do the most difficult tasks in the morning and try to work ahead, try to work and take breaks, try to deal with long meetings that might be very energy consuming after you eat lunch. For me, that's important, right? So making sure that I'm not hungry and not tired when I do those meetings. And that if I did that and compare that to a week where I just let my day work me and I didn't structure what things I did, what tasks I handled throughout the day, those weeks could feel like two different lengths of time completely. So that's one. Second part is shop around for and negotiate your pricing when it comes to your travel. The further away your travel is, the better. Third is thinking about mini vacations and saving up for the bigger vacations. Fourth is looking north and south, right? If you go north, wherever you are in a map, if you can do part-time, if you can shift your time, if you're working from home, you can go north to south. You're always going to be in the same time zone for your clients and the people you work with. And so if you have a challenge of when are these people going to reach you, you can get in contact with me. If you look at destinations north and south of where you are within your time zone, and you get more efficient with the time you work, and you can maybe do flexing or doing partial days throughout the summer. And I find like a lot of industries, the summer is usually the dead time. Like July and August is when everybody wants to go on vacation, right? So, do what you need to do in July and August. For me, I also got continuing education, so I fill that in July or August. So I'm not waiting to in November, December to do it because it's a lot. Yeah, just think about when you need to do your work and how you do it efficiently. You'll be ahead of the curve.
Great advice. Thanks. Great as always, Manny. Wonderful advice.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you everybody who was on the call. We have some more stuff to come to in August. I think that's a pretty time of the year that a lot of my clients are thinking about legacy planning. And so I hope to get some submissions from you all or people, friends of friends. Tell them, like, if you want to get some free advice, go to Gamma Wealth Management. There's a way to look at anonymously submitting your problem, your issue, your family, your relationship issue, which has a cross section with money. We could perhaps give you an answer online for free and through on our podcast. So that's always available to you. Gamma Wealth Management, of course, if you want something that's more protracted and a relationship with us where we're helping you solve these problems real time and helping with those bigger issues, we're here to support you. And with that, I thank you all, and take care of yourself. Take care of everybody with you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
The content presented and discussed is purely intended to be general and educational in nature and should not be construed as specifically tailored investment, financial planning, tax, legal, psychological diagnosis, or other professional advice. Any data cited is valid as of the date of presentation. But please know that such data are frequently subject to change. Any investment performance referenced is purely past performance, which is no guarantee of any future performance. Nothing contained in this course should be construed as an offer to sell, a solicitation of an offer to buy, or a recommendation of any security or other financial product or investment strategy. All investment, tax, and financial planning strategies involve risk that you should be prepared to bear. Investment, financial planning, tax, legal, and other professional advice is specific to each individual and entity, and you are highly encouraged to consult with professionals of your choosing before taking any action based on the contents presented or discussed herein.